you are allowed to beat your wife. It's allowed. And so that was one of the first things that, raised my red flags for Islam. Muhammad was not a peacemaker. He was actually a warlord, which was completely different from the narrative that I used to believe in. Muhammad gives clear, cutthroat instructions to go kill the disbelievers, to fight in the name of Allah and His cause, and if people are not listening to you, and to pay the jizya.
Today, we're diving into a story most people don't want you to hear. What happens when someone questions the core of their faith, not just culturally, but intellectually, morally, and emotionally? In this video, I'm breaking down the 5 real reasons one ex-Muslim says he walked away from Islam. And these aren't clickbait, they're reasons people all over the world are talking about right now. Get ready for truth, controversy, and a perspective that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Let's get into it.
5 reasons why I am no longer a Muslim. Now, I know that Muslims will explain these verses away. For them, they have a justification and they see things a different way. So if after what I have to say, you genuinely still believe what you believe in, that's fine by me. These are just the reasons why I left Islam. One of the first reasons I ever questioned Islam is when somebody brought up the verse to me where it said that you can beat your wife. Now, me as a Muslim, I could have never believed that, because in my head, Islam was perfect, peaceful, loving, amazing. So in my opinion, in my worldview, this could have never been a thing, So finally, when I was brought up the verse, it was very clear that you are allowed to beat your wife. It's allowed. You are allowed. Now, I don't care how you explain this verse away, saying that, if you do 5,000 push-ups and then do 15 jumping jacks and then go to court of law and then you can hit your wife. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it says you can hit your wife. And so that was one of the first things that, raised my red flags for Islam. Second thing I found really interesting was that Muhammad was not a peacemaker. He was actually a warlord, which was completely different from the narrative that I used to believe in. My narrative that growing up was that Muhammad is a peaceful man. Islam is a religion of peace because Islam means peace. Therefore, it's a religion of peace. But then if you read the Quran, if you read the surah, if you read Surah 929, if you read Surah 7, 8, 9, there's so many verses where Muhammad gives clear, cutthroat instructions to go kill the disbelievers, to fight in the name of Allah and His cause, and if people are not listening to you, and to pay the jizya. Now, the best argument that Muslims come up with is that it was self-defense. But it doesn't work that way, because self-defense is when somebody attacks you for no reason and you defend yourself. But when you go and attack someone and they fight back, and then you go, aha, they just fought me, so I can hit them back and I can kill them. That's not self-defense. Remember, Islam wasn't a religion before Muhammad came into the picture. It wasn't. Like, whatever you want to say, historically, Islam wasn't a religion before Muhammad came into the picture. Then Muhammad came in, started telling people, hey, start believing in Islam. I'm giving you a choice. Believe in Islam. Whoever agreed, and whoever didn't agree, they were like, no. But he's like, no, believe in Islam, or if you don't want to believe in Islam, you have a choice. You can pay the jizya or my army will kill you. And so they're like, no, again, I want to live my life. I don't want to follow Islam. I don't care what you want me to do. I don't want to follow Islam. Okay, you don't want to follow Islam? Murder them, kill the infidels, kill the unbelievers. Anybody who doesn't believe in Allah, kill them. And so Muhammad was a warlord and not a peaceful one, much different from what Jesus was teaching. Jesus said, love your enemies, do not fight them, do not persecute them. But Muhammad was giving orders with his army, killing non-believers left and right. Quran is not perfectly preserved. Now, growing up, and even the Muslims watching to this day, even people in my comment section will try to defend this, saying that Quran has been perfectly preserved from the beginning of time, untouched, nothing has ever happened to it, there's only one Quran, etc., etc. Again, when you look deep into it, you start realizing, hold on a second. It's first of all, it's not perfectly been preserved. First of all, Muhammad never wrote the Quran. His believers, his companions did. And then as time went on, there was different Qurans. And then Uthman actually burned multiple Qurans, and he compiled his version of the Quran, and he kept one of them. He literally had 2 companions who were fighting between each other, where they didn't want to give up their version of the Quran because Uthman was going to burn them. So Uthman actually burned multiple Qurans, and then he made one Quran. right? And then that was passed on from generation to generation. Now, even now, the Quran that you believe in is the standardized Quran. So that's why it's very similar from everybody. But there's still multiple different versions of the Quran. There's the harsh version, there's the wash version. There's almost, I think, 7 different versions of the Quran. Now, you can try and say like there's different qira'ats, there's different translations, etc., etc. That's not my problem, because even the Bible has different translations. But the problem is you guys claim our books are corrupted because we have different translations, but you guys have the exact same issue. But when it comes to calling you guys out, you guys go say, well, it's just a different translation. Like, you know, there's not a difference. But if you look into it, there's words that are different. There's words that say he did it versus you did it versus the prophet did it or Allah did it. There's different words, different sentences that created in the error that's in the language. Now, if you want to argue that contextually everything is all the same, then you can't say the Bible is corrupt and you have an issue with the Bible, because Bible, that's all it is. That's an account of every different person who wrote it down, and they wrote it from their own lenses. So contextually everything is the same. Somebody might have given different details, but contextually it's all the same. But again, that's another reason that drew a huge red flag to me, because the claim was Quran's perfect and has always been preserved and never been changed. That's not true. Another main reason that I left Islam, or I'm no longer a Muslim, is funny because it puts me at risk, which is that if you live Islam, you are to be killed. According to the Sharia law, according to the law of Islam, according to the Quran, if you are a Muslim and you leave your religion, you should be killed. You should be murdered. Now that goes to show that you actually don't have a free will. It's very easy to sit there and be like, you have free will, when you don't. Because as any non-believer that's not a Muslim, like us as a Christian or any other religion, you can leave your religion because that's your choice. You can make the choice to say, if I don't choose Jesus today, I can do that. And Christians are not going to come kill me and persecute me because I decided to leave Christianity. Because I have my own free will and I can make that choice. In Islam, however, you don't get that choice. Which goes to show that you're brainwashed and you're submitted and you're put in there as a slave. And they're telling you, if you live Islam, you will die. Therefore, sit down, obey Islam, and do whatever you're told. You're not even allowed to question Islam. You can ask questions like, you don't know this information, that information, but you can't come around and say, hey, I don't think morally this thing is right. If you dare question that, again, you'll get backlash from Muslims and Islam in general, because you are not allowed to question Islam. You need to give full submission without any doubts in your heart. And you need to be a Muslim forever. In no way, shape, or form you're ever allowed to live Islam. And if you do live Islam, you will be unalived. Last but not least, the scientific miracles are all fake. Again, I used to believe Islam has so much pure evidence that it is true, that it has all the scientific evidence to back it up. So why would anybody believe in any other religion when there's proof and scientific miracles in the Quran that came 100% true? I would believe these things. So one of them was like Muhammad went up and he cut the moon in half, and then, everybody saw that, or something like that. Again, I honestly, I forgot the story, but Muhammad went up and he cut the moon in half. That was the scientific miracle. And astronauts went up and then they saw, at first there was like lines on the moon. Everybody's like blowing this up all over the internet. Okay, proof for Islam. See, there's a cut in the moon because Muhammad cut the moon in half and stuff like that. A while go by, you do some research, you find out there's a bunch of cuts and dusts everywhere in the moon. There's no evidence that the moon was cut in half. So that scientific miracle is fake. There's another verse somewhere in the Quran, and I'm gonna put it up here, so don't worry about it. But it says something along the lines of like your kids come from the man's bones or the man's brain, something like that, which is not how a baby comes. Like baby comes from the sperm and the egg meaning, right? But there's a scientific error where they say like your sperm comes from the bone or something, or like, the man's brain provides, and that's how the baby like is consummated and stuff like that. So again, another error in the Quran about scientific miracles. So they claimed to have thousands of scientific miracles in the Quran, but they didn't have any. So for all of these multiple different reasons, I decided from my own logical rationale that all of these things, they don't add up. The logic doesn't add up. The morality doesn't add up. The peace and violence they claim, like self-defense they claim, it doesn't add up. For all of these reasons, I just decided I'm out.